Elite Physique University, your source for all things physique enhancement.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Elite Physique University. I'm John Gorman, your host. We're back with a Q&A over episode 6. Jason, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing well. I'm all right.
Yeah, man. It's a Thursday here. We're recording. It's a busy day for us.
Yep.
We both just got done with email. So I like this, though, man. This is a nice break in the day because if not,
It is.
I can go sit at the computer for another 2 hours. I've always got stuff to do.
Yeah.
So this is a nice break. And, you know, this is a good Q&A. We just went over these real quick before I hit record, and we just kind of went over them real quick. Man, these are some really good questions.
Yep. I agree. I think everyone will be pleased with this once we get this unfolded here.
Yeah. So this is, for our listeners, this is episode 7. If you have not listened to episode 6, this is a Q&A going over that podcast. So episode 6 was nutrient timing, pre, intra, and post-workout protocols. Guys, go back, listen to episode 6, and then come back here. This is going to be a really, really good Q&A. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, Jason. We'll kind of get caught up on some cool stuff with us and public speaking, and then we'll get right into the questions. But I do want to ask our listeners, guys, if you're somewhere that you can, if you're listening from a phone or from some kind of a device, please hit pause. Give us a real quick review. There's stars there that you can give us a review. That really helps. We're getting up into the 80s now. It looks like it's starting to slow down a little bit, but you guys have really helped us elevate and get this to grow. And we've got some really, really big plans for this, which we're going to talk about here shortly. So if you don't mind, just hit pause, leave us a review, and then go ahead and get right back to us. So if you just hit pause and left us a review and now you're back with us, we appreciate you. If you didn't, I want you to know a kitten just fucking died somewhere, and I hope you're proud of yourself. So have a little bit of fun with that. Jason, man, give us a little breakdown on, you know, kind of like the last 10 days for you. I specifically wanted to hear your thoughts on the Physique Education Collective, the PEC. It's a lot easier for me to say it. You guys have a good thing going on over there, and you guys were just in Atlanta and gave like 6 presentations. How'd that go?
You know, we got a lot of great feedback from it. The presentations, I don't know if I'll remember them all, but I'll give you a taste. Mine was on insulin sensitivity, like how to manipulate it, how to improve it. Austin did a cool one on the thyroid and like went over in depth, like the different thyroid hormones, how they play off each other, and then what to look for in labs and how to read. So that was cool. Even though I do it daily, it's always nice to have something like that as a coach. Even though I do, kind of already know that stuff, it was awesome to kind of rehear it. Jeff Sue did some cool case studies on carb cycling and some of his clients. Jeff Black did a little bit on the gut and just kind of how to help kind of remedy some of the more common things that you see in physique sports with gut issues. And then Vince kind of did a deep dive he did like a case study looking back at blood work over a lot of his like women clients and estrogen dominance. So that was pretty cool. So if any of those topics sound cool to you, that's the kind of stuff we're doing. And we had about 35 people. So that was a nice little attendance. It's an intimate enough kind of setting that everyone I think can get a little time with us. But it's not like it's 4 people showing up. So we're building steam and we're happy with it. The next one is going to be in Nashville in April. And we're doing all new topics. So I know Jeff and I are going to joint present on cortisol and HRV, which is heart rate variability and how you can use it in physique sports. But we have some pretty cool presentations coming down the line for the new one. So that was a very good weekend, fun weekend, and a lot of good feedback.
Yeah, and you guys had Lauren Conlon come in for the first time, right? Did she present?
Did, and now she's going to be a part of the PEC, and she's presenting again next time with us.
Yeah, Lauren's amazing. I've had her on multiple podcasts back in the TNT podcast days. She's been a speaker at the Physique Summit twice now. We've done a lot of YouTube videos together. I consider her a good friend. Leslie and I go down, her and her boyfriend hang out, train at their house, go eat. Like, Lauren is top notch. To me, she's really she's really, becoming one of the best female coaches in the industry. She just kind of has it all.
With you.
And just a great person on top of that. So can't go wrong with having Lauren be part of anything, really. We at some point we'll have her here on the show whenever we start bringing on guests and we get through all of our topics. So speaking of speaking, you and I just got a date lined up. Now, this isn't 100% set in stone, but everything is lined up and booked. We're just really far out. We're like 6 months out. But we're looking at, middle of June, like June 13th. You and I are going to have the very first Elite Physique University one-day seminar.
Yep.
And this is going to be fun, man. We've got some cool ways that we can do this a little bit different than some of the stuff we've done before with the summit and bodybuilding camps. But I'm excited for you and I to kind of iron this out in detail and then let our listeners know here. They'll be the first ones to know before we ever put it on social.
Definitely.
We'll give you guys kind of a heads up. And it'll be in Springfield, Missouri. And we're keeping the prices. We're keeping them good. It's only going to be $99, and you're going to get a full day's worth. We may even do a day and a half, with the night prior. We'll just see. But guys, look for that. We'll have the announcement soon. We'll probably give everybody like 4 months heads up so you guys can plan vacations and stuff. I've got this large 10,000 square foot gym. Like, everybody can come train there. It'll just be a blast. I mean, Jason, you've been to Springfield before when we had the summit here. It's a good area. It's easy to fly into and drive. It's not like downtown St. Louis or anything. So
right. Definitely.
It'll be good. So yeah, man, that just kind of catches us up, everybody up on kind of what's been going on with us. Let's go ahead and get into these questions. So I'm just going to read these. Some people, they were cool with their names. Some people were like, just make it anonymous. So
right.
We'll just jump right in. Miss Diana Gear, longtime client of mine, one of the best female natural pros out there, in her 50s, by the way. I like Diana's questions. She's always constantly thinking. Jason, I know she messages you. You guys are friends.
Yep.
And you've helped her as well. So
I have.
She's in a really, really good place here, and she coaches people, and she's just doing well. So she's always thinking of good questions like this. Her question is, if you're watching your blood sugar and insulin sensitivity closely, are high glycemic carbs or mid or low GI carbs better around the workout? So, Jason, we're going to do a whole podcast on insulin sensitivity. And a lot of the times we take people through these resets, maybe once a year. So if someone's trying to watch their insulin sensitivity, what do you recommend around the workout? High GI carbs, mid or low GI carbs? What's kind of your go-to in that situation?
I mean, I don't really think of it kind of that way when I'm building someone's plan. I don't go, oh man, these few carbs in the plan could really blow their insulin sensitivity. So then let me backtrack. If someone is trying to reset their insulin sensitivity, they've already shown me that they have lost it. Their blood sugars are over 100 in the morning, and then every time, postprandial, they're still 130, 140s. Then I might, because someone is in a diet phase and I have to pull calories back and they're in a deficit, I'm actually going to be less worried about a little high glycemic then. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but remember, they're in a deficit and they're not getting much carbs anyways. So a little like fast acting isn't really going to hurt them, or to get it stored quickly so that they can use it, because they're not going to have a ton of carbs in the body anyways. I hope that makes sense for people what I'm saying. They're going to be in a deficit. They're going to be calorically restricted. So it really doesn't matter as much, in my opinion, because it could be around the training. If someone is really in the off season and they're pushing calories already hard and heavy, and they're kind of towing that line, that's where I'm going to get a little more maybe where I'm not going to use as much sugar products and things like that. Maybe just some jasmine rice pre and maybe some cream of rice post, because we're already jacking their sugars up high all day. That's more where I'm going to be more concerned. But even intra in that situation, you're still going to I'm still having them either do Gatorade or Carbolin. And, those are very fast acting sugars. So no matter what you do, I think you're going to still spike that insulin a little bit. You just kind of have to understand where you're at in your program. And you might have a completely opposite answer. But that's how I kind of look at it.
No, man. I mean, you and I, most of the time, you and I are pretty close on everything. The only time that I'll tell someone, hey, have something like rice or cream of rice or oatmeal or potato or something slower digesting, pre and post workout, is when their insulin sensitivity is just really fucking bad, really bad from the start. And I haven't been able to get it to move. Sometimes I'll do a 4-week insulin sensitivity reset and people are still in the fucking upper 90s. they've dropped from like 105 morning to like 99, and they still have some hundreds in there, and I just can't get it to move. Then I start introducing, hey, listen, let's not spike insulin hardly at all. Use some slow digesting carbs. So that's the one time I do it. Or if I am doing a reset, some people I don't have to drop their calories right out of the gate. I'll just try leaving their calories where they are so they're not in a deficit, and I might try that. But most of the time it's only when I can't get someone's to move and I've got to kind of take drastic measures. I've got to extend out, from 4 weeks to like 6 to 7 weeks. God forbid I have to do it for 8 weeks. But man, sometimes some people's bodies are just stubborn. I'm going to say out of every 10 insulin sensitivity resets I do, maybe one is really that bad. And usually it's paired up. Like if you go back and listen to our prior podcast, or if you've listened to us at the summit, it's usually paired up with high cortisol and shit sleep. So you know what I mean? Like that's a whole other topic. So, but that's the only time. So I don't really worry about it too much, but it is a good question. Justin M. Finger asks, is there a limit to carbs that you can have during the workout? How much do we recommend? So if you go back and listen to episode 6, we kind of did talk about just our generic, I hate to put numbers out sometimes, but sometimes you have to, because people need to know, well, hey, what should I just try and start with? So I think we both said somewhere around 20 carbs for women, 30 to 35 for guys, just somewhere in that range. But we also both have people that have theirs jacked up there pretty high, 60 carbs intra, 70. Give us kind of an idea, if you would kick this off, of, what's the limit that usually gets someone up to, and why is it usually that high?
To reiterate, I believe we did say like women was around 20, men around 35, 40, somewhere around there would be a nice little starting point. But again, these are all individual situations. I've had men that are like more like kind of your super heavies up to around 100 intra-workout. And I believe I was doing like half Gatorade and half Carbolin, something along those lines. But yeah, I have guys right now I know that are around 80, 75, 70, somewhere around there. I don't think anyone creeping up to 100. But I mean, it's just really individual on the person. I mean, you get to a point where someone's trying to get in 700 carbs. Well, you're going to get a lot of liquid carbs in, and in the intra at that point, there's just so much food to try to account for and get in. So it's one of those things where I think if, Justin, if you start around 40 and just kind of see how your digestion's going, are you hungry post-workout, or are you really still bloated? All those different things, maybe the source has to change, or maybe it's just too much. All those different biofeedbacks have to be taken into account to kind of dial it in really well. But I think 40 for a man would be probably a good starting point.
Yeah, I do too. I know Justin, I did his prep one year. Great athlete, good physique. He's not somebody that can eat fucking 1,000 carbs a day for sure. So Justin, I would definitely, just like Jason said, that 40 carb mark is probably about right for you. And the other thing is, there are some people that just have to train so fucking high volume. That's another reason why I'll get theirs up there a little bit more. If they're not fatties like me, but they have to really train high volume, I might get them up there to 50, 60. I don't generally ever have anyone over. Most of my clients are natty, so I don't have a lot of the heavyweights or super heavyweights anymore these days. A lot of that stuff is also dictated by muscle mass too. I mean, it's so many things that go into this art form of coaching, right? How hard you're training, like how much volume, how much muscle you have, the fucking rep ranges, like how many calories you're having that day. Like there's so many things that go in. I just don't have a lot. I don't want to spend a lot of time on taking insulin, Jason, but I do know there's probably going to be a few people listening to the show. They're like, so I'm going to kind of inject another question in. This is kind of me making one up, but I think it should be talked about. This isn't something I deal with at all. I just don't. I don't pretend to try and know. And if clients come to me and they want to use insulin, I'm not the guy for them. But there are people that like, so how do I work intra-workout carbs around that? How do I time that? So is that something that's going to dictate the amount of carbs that someone's having intra-workout?
Well, yes and no. Here's why I say that. You should never time your carbs to your insulin dose. Your insulin dose should be timed to the amount of carbs that you already know that your body's comfortable taking in pre-workout. So what I mean is you don't go, oh, dude, I heard taking 20 IUs of insulin's awesome. So if I need 10 grams of carbs per 1 IU, then I need 200 carbs pre-workout. No, don't do that. If you know that you do well with 65 carbs, then you can have around 6 IUs of insulin after you eat before you go to the gym. So you match it up to your carbs. So then once you've already done that, with you matching it up to your pre-workout carb, any intra is kind of going to be icing on the cake to just kind of prevent you from going hypo. Does that make sense? So you've already covered it, because if you did 65 carbs, that means you can do up to 6 IUs of insulin. 10 grams carb per 1 IU is just a general rule. It changes for everybody, but it's a general rule to start. And then let's say you do 40 intra. Well, now you've covered that 6 IUs with 100 carbs. You're probably fine. So there's really nothing that says, I have to get a certain amount in at intra. You kind of time up what you ate pre, and that kind of sets your humalog dosing, and then you just kind of cover it even more with your intra, if that makes sense. Now there are guys who probably midway through the workout go and hit more in the bathroom, but I don't ever advise it. It's just finally gets nutty. So that's kind of how it rolls.
Yeah, I want to throw that in there because I know probably not very many, probably about 2% of the listeners probably are in that situation. But you know what?
Right.
If that's a little bit of information for you that took us 3 minutes, then great.
Right.
The next question comes from Teddy Pantelis, client of yours, if I remember right.
Long time.
Damn good natural athlete.
He's I mean, he's a pro bodybuilder. Does
fucking shredded, man.
Yep.
I think he did WNBF Worlds, if I remember watching him right. Just did really well. Always motivating. So his question is, what are your preferred pre and post workout meals and why? So if you go back and listen to episode 6, we did talk about the stuff that we like to eat, with cream of rice or potatoes. But Jason, if you have another go-to meal, let's hit on that. So maybe
Sure.
If you have something that you're going to have to eat 2 or 3 hours prior, and it's just the way timing is, what would your go-to meal be then?
So I'll just tell you how I did it today. I mean, today I ate about an hour pre, and that's just the way my day was going. So I didn't want really any food that would take long to digest. So I did whey and then cream of rice. And then post-workout, I was on the go. I had to go pick Maddox up after chest club. And so I packed more whey and rice cakes, the flavored kind, little more sugar, a little faster acting post-workout. And I hit all my numbers that way. So I use a lot of rice, jasmine rice, cream of rice, or some type of rice cake, usually around my pre and post.
Yeah. So I'm pretty, usually I kind of base mine off of how long before I'm going to hit the gym. So sometimes like today, super busy day, and I knew I was going to have to go like 2.5 hours from the time that I was going to eat until the time I could probably train.
Oh, wow.
And and sometimes when that happens, I'll actually eat, a solid protein source like chicken and some potato or something like that. Sometimes I've been having corn tortillas and a little bit of fat-free cheese and some turkey meat in there, something along those lines. But my point to the listeners is, if it's going to be a couple hours away from the workout, I'm going to have something that digests slow. Now, there's no way in hell I'm going to eat any kind of meat and food like that, especially with veggies, anywhere close to the workout, because like I said back in episode 6, to me, it all comes down to bloat. So the closer to the workout I am, the more times I'm going to have whey and powdered potatoes or cream of rice. The farther I am away, the more I want to have something a little slower digesting that I'm going to let kind of settle and drop down. And start
like chicken and oatmeal. Oats take a while to digest, so like something like that would work well.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of pair mine up. I don't really think the foods are magical when you start getting a little bit farther away from the workout. To me, it all comes down to bloat. The last thing anybody wants is to go train in the gym and feel like you're gonna fucking, like your stomach's distended or you got gas and shit. Like nobody wants that. So.
No, I mean you can't train peak performance when the blood wants to be in your stomach, because you're just not getting it to the extremities. So the closer it has to be the workout, the more that you want to pick something that's going to be able to be in and out of you really quick.
Here's another question, and I know you and I, so we're going to probably be a little brutal and straight up honest on this one. What if you wake up first thing in the morning and you have to train, but you just cannot stomach anything? I know training fasted's not a good idea. So what do you guys recommend? Do you want to be Crabby Jason, or you want me to be Crabby John to start this off?
Yeah, no, I'll start. I mean, I'm gonna push back and be like, look, you're gonna have to meet me midway. Because I literally just had this yesterday with someone, and they ended up signing up. But they said, "Are you gonna make me eat? I don't like to eat pre-workout." And I said, well, I won't make you eat, but I'll strike a deal and I'll do carb powder and whey. And maybe I'll make it a little smaller than some of your other meals, but we're going to go with that. And they were like, okay, I can make that happen. And I think they ended up actually even like doing whey and a little bit of sweet potato, and they said it was perfectly fine. So like people just don't want to get out of there. Like when someone says they can't have anything, like, come on, dude, this bullshit. You just don't want to get out of your comfort zone. But the problem is, you're where you're at in your development because you're in your comfort zone. So you're hiring a coach to be like, yeah, this isn't optimum and this isn't optimum. And yeah, this sucks. You need to change this. So that's one of those things. And I'm just going to be like, nope, this is how we're doing it.
Yeah. So my thing is, when somebody's really serious about physique enhancement, I mean, that's why our podcast is titled the way it is. This is for people that are really serious. When you're serious, then you're going to do what you have to do. And a lot of people that just aren't, first thing, they just don't want to get up. Like they don't want to get up and get around. They want to get up, drink their coffee and fart around. Like for most people that tell me they don't want to eat, they want to have their fucking coffee and they want to take their time. But if you've got to get up and have a shake and some carbs, 30 minutes before you work out, that means you got to get up and get on the move. And I've just noticed that's most people. I'm that way, by the way. I don't want to get up and slam some fucking food right out of the gate. But if I were dead serious about adding muscle and I had to train first thing in the morning, I'm going to have whey and I'm going to have some kind of like dextrose, and I'm going to hit it right before I walk into the gym. And then I'm going to start my EAAs and dextrose intra-workout. And that's just what I'm going to do. The reality is like Jason said, it's not that hard. You have to do what you have to do. It's not like we're asking you to eat eggs and cheese, 6 whole eggs and all this other shit and toast. Like we're not asking you to do that. So it's really not that hard. Here's another question. And you know what? This is a really, really good question. I know our listeners are going to be like, oh yeah, I wonder about that. So if you train late at night before bed, should you still do the pre, intra, and post-workout protocol because you're spiking insulin so high? So Jason, I think this is such a good topic because if you really think about it, people think, why would I want to spike insulin? Why would I want to slam all these carbs right before bed when I just got done training? I'm going to eat and then I'm going to go lay down and I'm going to lay in a bed all night long and I'm just laying there. So it comes back to people are a little bit scared of carbs at night. Back in the old days, no carbs after 6 p.m. is kind of what we all kind of learned, which is hogwash, as we know now. What do you tell people when they come to you and they talk to you like, hey, should I really be doing this late?
I 100% tell them it's no problem. I'm like, just move your pre and post to bookend that workout. I don't care if you get off the gym floor at 10 p.m. You can have your post workout. And yes, I want you to still do your intra because your body is still going to behave the same way. Like you're going to need the glucose way more during this time frame. After workout, GLUT4 translocation still happens. Those carrier proteins come to the cell more likely, and so you're more likely to store glycogen. And so all those bodily processes still happen, whether it's 8 a.m. in the morning or you start at 8 p.m. So yes, definitely do your pre, your intra, and your post. And then you got to adjust meals 1, 2, and 3. Like, you're going to probably get less carbs earlier in the day. Then you're going to have more towards the night.
Yeah, 100%. And the one other thing that I'll add too, because I tell my clients the exact same thing. One other thing I'll add is for people that are worried about, should I have carbs late? What people don't realize is when your body sleeps, first of all, especially whether it's when you sleep and you train in the morning or in the evening, it doesn't matter. But when you sleep, and especially after you train late at night, your body is in recovery mode. And a lot of people don't realize the process of building muscle, the process of recovery, like all that shit takes energy. And energy comes from carbohydrates. It comes a little bit from fats. So to put your body through something like that late at night, that I don't care if someone's having, I don't know, like 120 carbs around their workout right around then or 150. It does not matter to me at all because their body actually needs it. And another thing people don't realize, and I saw this in a write-up in a study somewhere, the last half of sleep. So if you sleep 8 hours a night, right, that last 4 hours of sleep, your metabolic rate is actually so high that last 4 hours, that it's higher than at some points during the day that your metabolic rate could get to. And whenever I read that, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I'm like, man, no wonder it doesn't matter if we eat a carb meal and go to bed. Like, your body is, metabolic rate is through the roof, and you're trying to repair all this stuff that we put our body through. It's just crucial. So from that point on, I quit worrying about carbs at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Next question is, okay, so what if you do cardio after your workout? Should you do your post-workout shake and food right after you work out and then go do your cardio? Or should you just do your workout, do your cardio, and then do your post-workout shake and food? I actually get asked this quite a bit because most people think they don't know what to do.
Right. I mean, 99% of the time I'm having people train, do the cardio, and then replenish after the cardio is done. Man, I can't really think of much of a time where I'm like, oh, you got some HIIT cardio coming up. Let's just go ahead and have the protein portion and get some amino acids in, or let's get the car. I just have you train. I mean, you've been well fueled for your training. We had we've had intra, all that's going through you. So I just have people go right into the cardio. I'm sure at some point in time I've had someone or somebody who he needed to maybe fuel up, but it's very rare.
Yeah, I never have. It's the exact same thing. I might just train, do your cardio, do your post-workout shake, anywhere 30, 60 minutes later, once you're ready, right, your intra-workout carbs have gotten through you and they've kind of bottomed out.
Right. And you set up a good pre-workout meal so your body's nourished. You set up a good intra so your body's nourished with, EAAs, BCAAs, creatine, carbs if you're doing intra. I mean, you can go ahead and go into that cardio. As long as you're not doing like 2 or 3 hours of some sort of endurance, you don't need to eat again.
Right. And something we'll get to on another episode when we do talk about cardio. And a lot of people are probably sitting here thinking, so why the fuck would I drink intra-workout carbs and sugars and stuff like that, finish my training, and then go do cardio when insulin's elevated and blood sugar might even still be a little bit elevated? But at that point, that is one of the times where you can say calories in versus calories out starts to make a difference, because fasted cardio, and we'll get a little bit into that later on. Fasted cardio in the morning, that might be a little bit different than calories in versus calories out. The studies have shown differently, but we're not talking about true lists, light intensity, steady state, like you like to do, Jason. I still think there's more that we need to know about that. But I think when it comes to doing your cardio after having intra-workout carbs in a training session, to me, that's when it kind of becomes, you still need to be at a deficit. And I think that's where more of the calories in versus calories out comes out. What do you think about that?
I think you're right, but that's why I also tell people, have it done. I have people drink half of it on the way to the gym and then have it done about 30 minutes before you're done with your workout. What that does is you'll burn through it more. The blood sugars will be more cleared out. They'll get lower. So you're either in a good state for your list, or you're in a good state to go fuel your body. Either way, I like to have it finished about 30 minutes, not still being sipped on as they're trying to go get on a treadmill and do some lists.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the intra-workout carbs should go to fuel your workout, not to fuel your cardio.
Right.
And if it is, you need to drink it faster.
Right. Get it done 30 minutes before you're finished.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, here's another good one. Man, I'm struggling. I'm gonna have to crack one of these open. So this one could be a long answer. We're gonna keep it short. And we're gonna go over keto for a minute, because we're gonna do a whole episode on this. Yeah. So what if someone's keto? What's a good pre, intra, and post workout protocol? A lot of people that know me, I have a lot of people that think that's all I do is fucking keto, because I've done so much with keto for the last like fucking 13 years. It's because I like to experiment. So I'll kick this one off. Because, man, I've been there, done that, and tried everything. And honestly, Jason, you're just like me. Like, you've done as much with keto as I have. You probably don't publicize it as much as I do. No. I usually do, because I'm pretty geeky about it. But I think when it comes down to it, you and I both have a shit ton of information on keto. So, we could really go into some detail here. A good pre, intra, and post-workout protocol. Here's what I tell my clients on keto. I do the same thing with whey. Whey is always it always bookends the workout as long as they're going to train within an hour or two of their meal. So whey sits easy on your stomach. So I'm a big fan of that, keto or not. And then I have them have a fat source that's going to sit good on their stomach. And I don't want to go into detail on which fats are better because, dude, we'll spend a fucking 30 minutes on this question. But any kind of fats that sit good on your stomach are fine. And then intra is when I recommend, it's actually your product, Jason, New Ethics Essential Energy.
Yep.
And I like to recommend that 2 different ways. And it really depends. I like to have my clients drink it on the way to the gym. So, 20 minutes out from the gym, go ahead and have a couple scoops of it. That way the energy is starting to hit you as soon as you start your training program. That seems to really, really help. The other nice thing is it's so full of electrolytes, specifically sodium and BHB salts, that I don't hesitate to have them throw another scoop in and drink that during their workout if they're really doing a lot.
Right.
And that gives them the keto salts and that gives them everything that they need to just have a great training session. The pumps, dude, pumps suck on keto. Like it's part of it. But if you got the electrolytes on point and you got plenty of ketones helping fuel the workout, I'm a big fan of the essential energy, especially because it tastes good. Most shit just does not. It's keto salts. Like they're not going to taste great.
Right.
So I recommend that intra-workout. And I'll do the same things that we talked about in episode 6 with creatine and all the different supplementation around, pre and intra. And then post-workout, I have them go right back to a whey shake and whatever fat sources they want, because keto is a little bit different. You don't necessarily have to have, fast-acting fats like MCTs and stuff like that. It more or less comes down to, what we'll get into on our keto episode. But for the most part, I let people just pick the fat sources that they want. So, peanut butter has a little bit of carbs in it. It's not a ton, but some people like to have almond butter or peanut butter around the workout. I'm pretty relaxed on that, but we'll go into that more in detail on our keto episode. Jason, what do you like to recommend?
So pre-workout, I mean, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna have whey. I am big on MCT pre, just for faster acting fats to get the energy, and then I'm gonna let them have a veggie of some sort pre. And then usually intra, I'm doing my our New Ethics Essential Energy as well. I'll do like 2 scoops, 2 to 3 scoops, about 20 ounces of water. I'll do 6 grams of beta alanine, 6 grams citrulline, 10 grams creatine, and do about half of that on the way there. And then again, then I'll sip it while I'm training. And then post-workout, generally I'm cool with a nut butter to get a little more carbs, just kind of tastes a little better than oil too, something to look forward to, and then whey again, and probably another veggie.
Yeah, man, pretty simple there. Let's go on to the next question. If I'm very low carb for the day, so someone doesn't have a lot of carbs in their diet, they're getting down towards the end of a diet phase.
Yeah. Yep.
And they don't have enough carbs to spread out over a pre, intra, and post-workout protocol. So like maybe somebody's down to 50 carbs a day.
Yep.
Where would you place them, Jason, if you had to, and this is kind of a hypothetical, where would you place them? Pre-workout, intra-workout, or post? I can tell you for me personally, if I get someone down this low, I'm fucking taking them keto anyway. So it never really happens with me unless it's like a couple days a week. If I'm carb cycling, like a female, she might be down to 40, 50 carbs. And I just have to hammer the dog shit out of her at the end to kind of get it off. But most of the time, if I'm going to have to get someone there every day, I'm going to take them keto anyway, because I just believe it's better than low carbs. What do you feel about that? And where would you place if you had to pick one place to put 40 or 50 carbs?
Well, I mean, if I have 40 or 50, I'm going to place them 20 and 20 and 25 or 25. I'm going to skip the intra and I'm going to put them pre and post. If I have to choose, I'm going to discuss it with the athlete. I have some people who feel like they really don't need carbs to train. If you give them a fat, a protein, and a veggie, they feel like they're going to be all right. And then I'll go ahead and put it post so they're replenished. But if someone feels like they really need that energy to have a good workout, then I'm going to give it to them pre, and then post workout, they're going to get a veggie, and they're just kind of, not really get that replenished side of the carbohydrate. At that point, it's, you can make an argument of why it sucks either way to not have it pre or post. but I don't always go to keto like you're saying. I think there's many people who don't respond to higher fat diets. And so if they've been that person all of prep, I'm not going to go then take a fat approach. I'll leave them on that 40 or 50 carb, lower fat, maybe jack up the protein some, and leave them there. So it really depends whether in my world they're a fat processor or a carb processor on what I'm going to do at the end there. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, sure. Man, there's so many different scenarios, so many different caveats and differences, that we can say, well, I would or wouldn't. And that's why, this is all an art form. I said that earlier in the show, not only to our listeners that are just athletes, working on your own physique is an art form. If you're a coach or a trainer out there listening, that's one, especially if you're new, that's one thing you have to understand. Like, there's so many different situations. Like Jason said, you could have one person that you could take keto, and the next person you're going to split it 20 carbs, pre, 20 post. I might have 30 or 40 intra and a little bit before and none post. I mean, it rarely does that happen, but we can make all kinds of arguments. I think it just comes down to knowing your body or knowing your client's body.
Yeah. And, discussing it, like I said, you're always trying to preserve the workout, you're going to feel like shit the rest of the day, but if you can at least get through a decent workout, that's the big thing. So, if I'm that low and, I'm going to split it, but if I have to choose, I'll talk to them about it, and tell them, well, I can give you some MCTs, it's going to, process a little faster. So you're going to get some energy there, and we'll crank you full of salt. If you think you can get through it, then we'll put it post, if they're like, no, I got to have carbs to perform, then I'm going to put it pre with them. So, you might have to discuss. And then I have times where I go keto too. That does happen, but I have to kind of feel like that person is more of a fat processor for me to want to go that route. That's all.
I think what you said is gold. The job is to preserve the workout.
Yeah.
This is bodybuilding. That's when you're dieting specifically, that's the number one thing you're trying to do is preserve muscle and to have a great training session. And for those people that have gotten lean enough or have done shows, that feeling at the end when you're down to really low calories and your body fat's getting low. Like, fuck, man, like the number one thing you can do is try and have a great workout. To me, I've always said champions are the one that can go into the gym feeling like death towards the end and still have a good training session. Some of that's mental, but some of that might be the fucking 40 carbs you had pre-workout
Yeah. And then, like I said, I start loading salt in more and more. Like, I'll do anything I have to, even if it's a fake pump, to get that feeling of the muscle working to where it's actually being stimulated. There's nothing worse than going in and feeling like a wet noodle and you just can't feel it. At that point, you got to figure out a new strategy. You got to get some citrulline in you. Maybe you need the injectable L-carnitine because it increases NO2. Maybe you need more salt. Maybe you need abolic. Maybe you got to add something else in your arsenal. But fight always to preserve the workout and preserve that response to training.
Something we haven't talked a lot about, and then we'll move on to our last question with pre-workout is, you and I are both pretty big about, getting caffeine levels down before you start dieting, just to keep cortisol lower and things of that nature. But this would also be one of those great times when you're towards the very end and you've kept caffeine low. Right. That way, when you do go to reach for it, maybe that replaces your carbs pre. You have some caffeine, and it gives you a little bit more energy. You respond well to it. You don't need a massive amount because you haven't been using it the whole prep. And you get a little bit of energy there. And then after you work out, you can have those post-workout carbs. So those carbs can go to fuel recovery. There's just so many different ways to look at it. But, I'm sitting here. I cracked open a drink because I'm getting ready to drive to St. Louis after this. I'm fucking tired. I thought, you know what, man, that's where caffeine comes in. But it's got to come in the right way. Like, you can't be taking fucking 900 milligrams 20 weeks out. Well, when you get to 3 weeks out, you're fucked. So, we'll do a whole podcast over caffeine and shit like that too, because a lot of people just don't know. All right, man. Final question. I love this question. You and I are glucose disposal agent super geeks. You've been doing it just a little bit longer than I have, probably about a year longer. We both have a lot of experience with these. We've designed them before. All our clients have been using them for a fucking decade now or more. Here's the question. Should I take a glucose disposal agent pre, intra or post? And I think really what we need to answer is pre and post. I mean, I don't
Yes.
think anybody needs to fucking take one intra, but
No.
The reason why this is such a good question is I've changed, I've changed my approach to it. I used to tell people, listen, don't take a GDA pre and post, because that's when your insulin sits, that's when you're burning through those carbs the best. I told them don't take it pre because I didn't want the workout drops your blood sugar anyway. I don't want someone to take a GDA and then bottom out.
Well,
So
yeah, if you bottom out, you've ruined your workout. It's gonna be real tough to recover.
So I used to fall into that category. I'm like, nah, take a GDA at all your other meals that have carbs. Don't worry about pre and post. Then I started to change my mind because then I started trying it myself. And it really came down to, for me, what carb meals I was having pre and post.
Yeah,
If I'm
sure.
having fast acting carbs, I don't really need to take a GDA because they clear pretty quick, especially pre and post workout. So your insulin sensitivity is better. I don't want to bottom out by taking one pre. But if I'm having something like oatmeal and it helps clear it a little bit quicker and I feel better, and I always feel less bloat whenever I eat any kind of slow digesting carb and I have a GDA because it helps.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, GDAs help with that. So in that situation, I do recommend it pre and post. Or if somebody's trying to reset their insulin sensitivity, with a glucose disposal agent, the best thing that those do is they keep overall insulin lowered. So from a health standpoint, it's great. If you're trying to reset your insulin sensitivity, it's great. So I do recommend it there, pre and post. And that's just kind of my take there on kind of how things have changed. Jason, what do you recommend?
So, I mean, first off, I own a supplement company that sells GDA. So, take it with a grain of salt. But I personally, this is how I do it, and I have a lot of my clients. I have them take it pre with the thought that, your insulin sensitivity hasn't really picked up yet. You haven't done anything. Like I come straight from my desk to have that meal. So I do have it with that. And I'm one of those people who tend more towards a type 2 diabetic scenario. My grandmother has it. My mom's borderline. So I've never really taken a GDA and ever felt like I've risked being hypo. So again, that's coming from where I'm at. If anything, it's helping my situation. But I get a better pump and I feel like my food digests better and through me. So I'm going to take it pre for all those reasons. Post, I take it personally because I own a company that produces it and I get it at a good cost. For all my other people, a lot of times I say, look, if you're on a budget, you really don't need it post-workout because GLUT4 translocation is picked up big time. And that's really just where the carrier proteins come more to the cell and they open because of insulin, and they're more open and more receptive because of training. And so you're going to store a way more efficient amount of glycogen in the muscle post-workout. So do you need it? Probably not. Do I take one? Yep, I do. But again, I have type 2 on my side of the family. I also have access to the supplement pretty easily. So that's my spiel on it.
Let me inject another question here because I just thought about this, and I don't know when we'll ever bring this topic up on the show again. Say you have a client that's type 1 diabetic, so they're taking insulin. It's doctor prescribed, obviously. I've had a lot of people ask me before, so should I take a GDA when I'm taking, insulin that's being prescribed? Jason, how do you normally handle that?
So here's the deal. If they take one with a meal, they are going to need less insulin. So if they are someone who still administers their own, like they're not hooked up to a machine or something that's seeing the need and dosing it, it gets a little tricky because they're going to need to adjust because it does make your body more sensitive to insulin. So if they needed 20 IUs to dispose of that meal, they might only need 10 now. And if they give 20, they're going to overshoot. So it gets really hairy with someone who's still doing it by hand. If they've got a machine and it's calculating and kind of just, putting the insulin out for them, it's going to require them to use less insulin, which is a healthy thing overall. So in that case, if you got something that's kind of self-regulating, it can help. But just when you're doing it on your own, it's going to be tougher because it's even like when you have a client who's type 1 dependent and they've never done any really exercise in their life, and now they start lifting, all their doses they start dropping. They don't need as much insulin.
Right.
It's really pretty wild to watch. And so if they're doing all that by hand, it gets a little more tricky for them until they kind of get a handle on it is all. So
Yeah, and I've told clients, I've only had probably 5 or 6 clients like that over the last 10 years. It's just not a common scenario that you're going to get. And if a coach doesn't know what to say, it's real easy to say, hey, listen, I'm not qualified. Like, I don't know. Talk to your doctor. Most doctors aren't going to know what a fucking GDA is anyway. But and that's not me taking a jab. I'm just saying, like, they don't. They'll know what metformin is, but they don't.
Yes.
They may not know it's a damn GDA.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, sometimes with them, I told them, like, listen, take a, I hate to use mild Slintrol, your natty nutrition product. It's not a mild product by any means. GDA Max is more powerful, in my opinion.
Yes.
The one that you make, it's got berberine and other things in it. But taking like chromium and Vanadil together, which is Slintrol. I know there's some other stuff in it, but back in the day, that's what I used to recommend. I'm like, listen, at least chromium and Vanadil will kind of help insulin do its job better. Vanadil will act like insulin. Chromium's kind of the cofactor, so you should be able to get by with less insulin. And sure enough, that was always the case. So, like you said, health-wise, anytime someone can get by a less total insulin, whether it's us or it's a type 1 or type 2 diabetic, it's just a good thing. I think GDAs are, you said you take it because you own a company, but, deep down, you and I both are huge believers in these, and we have been for our clients for well over a decade.
I just meant I take it post-workout. Like, I can take it more often throughout the day because
yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I have access. Not that I take it because, I created the product because I was taking them and believed in it,
Yeah, that's my point. I think these are these little gems that make up that 1 or 2% when it comes to physique enhancement or fat loss. That especially for a lot of my clients that are natural, like you need all those little 1 or 2% changes here or there that add up so much over time. That to me, a glucose disposal agent is right there. I would say 80% of the plans I send out, I've got a recommendation for a GDA.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I just tell them, take them at your carb meals away from the workout to start, just because of cost. You don't need to take 5 servings of it a day. But, yeah, man, these were fun. These were good questions. I can't wait.
Definitely were.
Can't wait to get into our next couple topics. You guys are going to love that. Like I said at the beginning of the show, please, please, please leave us a review. Hit pause right now. Leave us a review. If you're driving, pull over, use voice to text. I don't care. We're just we're super excited. We want to get this up to 100, and I know it's coming. So stay tuned, guys. More good episodes coming up down the pipe. Jason, we're going to get off here, man. We both got emails. I've got to head to St. Louis to work on some stuff for the summit. So for myself and Jason, we're out of here. Thanks, guys.
See ya.